Sometimes children wonder if other people know what they're thinking. People don't know what you're thinking if you don't tell them. So if you're worried about something, it can really help to tell the people you love what you're worried about. We'll have time to do more things tomorrow.
Hi, I'm Barb Devos. I'm the counselor that comes to Sioux Falls Lutheran School from Carroll Institute. You just viewed Mr. Ralph Rogers from the Mr. Rogers PBS television show, and that video was about worry. I used that old video as I myself grew up watching Mr. Rogers myself. And you know what? I still find comfort listening to Mr. Rogers when he talks about worry. Worry is a normal emotion, and we need to talk about our worries in our lives and even share talking about those worries with each other in our families. Children, and even adults, need to hear and feel, you know what? We're going to be okay. We're in this together. I am here to tell you there are many emotions and feelings that we're experiencing with so many changes in our lives caused by this coronavirus pandemic. None of us knew that in mid-March, when we went home, that we would still be doing schoolwork from home April, now May, into the end of the school year. And we didn't know we were going to have to do this thing called social distancing, which means that we needed to distance from our teachers, classmates, family, neighbors, friends. I, as a counselor, many times use a resource called ADD Etude Magazine, just like the word attention deficit. I want to preface an article that I found really, really helpful. It's called How to Calm Anxiety in 2020, Exercises for Anxious Adults. And I'm just going to read this. Pandemics are not new, but never before have we in our society experienced anything close to this. The range of emotions that we are feeling is intense, like traveling through almost the stages of grief. Denial, anger, bargaining, sadness, all in an effort to try and figure out psychologically and emotionally, how do I accept what's going on in my life, and how do I figure out how to go through it? We are all trying to make sense of the current circumstances. At times in our lives, we may find that we pretend all's fine. And you know what? That can be a healthy behavior and even necessary sometimes to get through things. But unfortunately, we cannot avoid the pandemic that we're living in and the changes that it's making in our lives. But we can look at, maybe there's some trade-offs. So maybe we get to spend more time with our family. Maybe our lives get to slow down a little bit, and we can focus on helping neighbors, others, and also maybe ourselves. And we know right now that our home is probably the safest. But it is getting long for each of us. And this waiting thing seems to be what we're all learning to do with patience. How we handle our emotions is important. Children watch us, the grown-ups in their lives, and they look at how do we handle our emotions, and so that they can learn how to feel safe in letting us know about their emotions and fears. And unfortunately, an emotional breakdown in front of our kids sometimes can happen. However, when our children may already have a feeling of fear and being scared, sometimes that breakdown's not always helpful. But when you are with your spouse, your significant others, your friends, your close family, please, 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 as adults, we need to share those frightening feelings and thoughts with our people in our life. Everyone needs a trustworthy, supportive person to whom they can unload their darkest fears and worries. And something about children. Our children are many times what's called egocentric, which means that they view their world from right here. Even teenagers view their world from right here, even though they're a little older in their cognitive skills. So children, though, many times will look to themselves and wonder or worry, did I cause something? So I always tell children, go to the helpers in your lives. And you know what? Right now, we are those helpers, the adults in these children's lives. And the first step to finding a calm is to name that uncomfortable feeling. When we label our feelings, what that's called is affect labeling. And you know what? Labeling tough emotions is not easy. And we need to encourage our kids and our family to use more than words, I feel bad or good. Try to encourage them to use more feeling words so that they can label how they're feeling. And doing that labeling in how you feel hopefully will lessen if a child is then having a negative reaction emotionally. When we use words to put a name on what we're feeling, it actually helps our brain. There's this place in our brain called the amygdala. And that amygdala in your brain is that center of your brain that handles emotion. And unfortunately, if it's not calm and it wants to react, I tell the kids, it flips its lid or it reacts. And that's unfortunately when we might have struggles and we might say something we wish we wouldn't have said or do something that is negative. So just like you taught your children, I'm guessing, to ride a bike, you taught your children how to brush their teeth, you taught your children how to safely walk across the street, sometimes with emotion, we also need to help them learn coping skills. Because unfortunately, when we're trying to manage worry and uncertain times, our thinking goes to worst case scenario. And then we spin into this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. So I'm going to read something from that same ADD etude. When I allow a threat to frighten me, I lose the cognitive ability to rationalize, realize, recognize, and manage my feelings. I lose sight of the fact that I have the power to manage my emotions. When a real threat is close, instead of making an action plan to control what I can, my mind goes to that worst case scenario. And you know what? Children are no different in their thinking. And grown-ups, we do the same thing when we're fearful. In fact, it's even tougher for children because children don't have those cognitive skills to think through and rationalize. So that's when you sometimes see negative behavior and they might act out. So I have a couple things that I'm going to encourage you to consider trying so that we can help our children learn how to help themselves. It's important when we help children, even teenage age, it's important to teach them that they can have what's called an internal locus of control, which means I can get through this, I can take responsibility, versus that the world controls what I do, and that's called external locus of control. So helping children know they have some control helps them know that they can be responsible, independent. It actually helps them gain what's called grit and resilience. So I'm going to email you an activity, and it's called Circle of Control. So you'll see this, and it's an activity that you can look at inside the circle. What are the things that I can control? Well, I can control when I go to bed at night. I can control what time I get up in the morning and do my schoolwork. I can control taking a break outside. And then on the outside of the circle is all those things we can't control. So it encourages us to look at what can we control. And then I have another little tip. It's called the 4-second pause. So we know that young children's brains, they need more processing time. So many times, if you ask a child to do something, or you've asked them a question, if we don't pause, they don't have time to process. They don't have time to answer what you ask them. So what I'm going to encourage you is to do a pause. So once you ask a question or give a request, count inside your head, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, and then let your child answer. This will give them the ability to process what you asked. You know, because sometimes then you'll see from them that they won't answer, they'll get sidetracked and do something else. So try wait time and see how that works for you. Another big thing is try to stay the best that you can in the present. Our minds many times will listen to the news and maybe sometimes get really stuck on watching different news types of things on TV. But I'd encourage you to limit yourself if you can. You know, get the facts of what's going on in the day, but then shut the TV off. Take a walk, sit in nature. Look for all the buds in the trees. You'll notice around Sioux Falls and the area around us, people are putting stuffed animals in their windows. So go on a bear hunt. And sometimes you might even need to repeat a comforting statement inside. I'm fine, I have everything I need, I'm strong, I'm brave, I can handle today. Use your faith. You might find that looking towards hope is a comforting thing. I know for me, when I focus on helping others, it helps me not focus on worrying and what maybe I can't control right now. I believe our trade-off with this COVID-19 pandemic can be that we can look for the positives. But we also have to realize we also may be having some losses. High school graduations are different. Proms didn't happen, or they were done differently. Even little ones celebrating their birthdays are having to do it from afar. But can we celebrate differently? So I'm going to send you out an email. So watch for some email resources. And if life feels overwhelming to you or your children, please don't be afraid to seek out supports. If your child would like to have a Zoom session, I'd love to check in with them. All I'd need is your email and your permission, and I can be available to do a private chat on how you're doing. Besides working as a prevention counselor, I work with Renew Counseling, a sister company to Carroll Institute. We at Renew want to help strengthen, change, and renew you and your family if there is need. In the email, there'll be resource information. 605-299-8282 is the number. Mrs. Bernard and Mrs. Esser are super resources, as well as your teachers. Another good resource is the local 211 helpline. 211 also has a texting line available for teens. Kids text I care to 898-211. Please be aware, in these very uncertain times, which can create anxieties and depressed mood, even if we have never felt these kinds of emotions before. If you become concerned, or your child's mood feels dark or troublesome, that 211 helpline can connect you directly to an Avera counselor. 211 can be a resource for financial programs as well as other supports. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the City of Sioux Falls Area Community Foundation, and local businesses have established the One Sioux Falls Fund. This fund is available to help families to prevent extreme financial difficulties in their families. And it's for, besides Sioux Falls, Minnehaha, Lincoln, McCook, and Turner counties. Blessings to you all. I look forward to supporting you and your families and to seeing you, hopefully, sometime soon. Look for those hopes. Look for those little silver linings. Have a great day.